Specialization versus generalization. There is a current thing going on through my Instagram reels, which is like a jack of all trades, but a master of none is not the full quote. And it goes on to give you some other thing. That's lovely. There's some nice words there, but it's not much use in our profession. Being a generalist in photography makes it very hard to make money. And I'm going to band around my bro science again of the 74 to 75,000 people doing a tax return. And there's about 100 photographers with an agent. None of those photographers with an agent are generalists. And the average salary is £24,000 for a photographer in the UK. Take into consideration all agents are based in London. They live off 20% commission and they need to have a decent salary in order to live there. A signed photographer needs to make a substantial amount of money for it to be worth their while for them to represent them. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. It's a good paying job. But we don't generalize. We don't do everything. We don't do a bit of this and a bit of that. And if anything, it's almost pointless trying to. In photography, there are kind of cheap jobs, a bit more expensive jobs, and then ludicrously expensive jobs. There aren't many mid-range jobs. There aren't many £4,000 a day jobs or £2,000 a day jobs. They don't really exist that much. There's a sort of £100 to £500 in the UK. At £1,000 for some work, and then it's kind of like 20 grand. There's not like these like sliding scales. It's here and it's there. And if you're a generalist, you're working the smaller jobs. And that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of people think that by being a generalist, they have the potential to earn more money. And that is incorrect. You'd assume that if you do a bit of everything, you've got more jobs coming your way, which is kind of true. But you're also in the sea of 74,000 generalists. And it's very hard to stand out if you do everything. Not many people stand out for being the person who can do a bit of everything. They stand out for being able to do a particular style of color grading. They stand out because they are a portrait photographer who works in this way. They stand out for whatever it is that they do. And if you do everything, you cannot stand out. Now, of course, in certain areas, in certain countries in the world, this is just not a possibility. And there are some really kind of unfortunate facts of life to go through here, which I'm going to explain to you. Most commercial work happens in London, New York, and Paris. It's very hard to make a living from it elsewhere. Not impossible, but hard. I live outside of London. By 1 hour, it is hard. If you want to be a photographer and don't want to move to one of these big cities or jump through the ridiculous hoops I had to jump through by being an hour outside of them, then being a generalist might be for you. It might be the only option for the lifestyle you want. But if you want to be a very high paid photographer, you're going to have to be a specialist. And there's some things you need to know about specialization. Specialization is not I photograph people. It's not I photograph food. Specialization looks very different to that at a high end. It's how you do it. And that's not I do it with a Hasselblad. That is, for me, for example, because I find it easier to explain my own ways because it makes more sense to me. I photograph in a bold and graphic style. That's what people want to hear. That's what they can sell. If there's two of us going for a job, which is in my style of work, and you're the person who does a bit of everything and I'm the person who does the bold and graphic style, it's much easier to sell that to someone who wants bold and graphic work. Now, of course, the flip side is, if they want some headshots down at the office doing, they'll probably go with you, but you're probably getting £500. So it's really important to understand this. Neither career is better than the other. They both come with their ups and downs. You know, I wouldn't say that the career path I've chosen is the best one. It is the best one for me because I'm highly competitive. But if you're not highly competitive and you want to stay living outside of a capital, or New York, which I always call the capital of America because it's where everything happens, but if you want to be in one of these places, great. But if it's not for you, I understand. And you just have to make peace with that and go, right, well, I'm probably not going to be shooting for Nike this year because of where I'm based and because I don't have that network and because I'm in the wrong country or whatever it may be. So, you know, this is how I'm going to deal with it. This is how I am going to craft my career. I'm going to be a person who works with people. I'm going to shoot weddings, headshots, portraits, whatever it may be, family portraits, the lot. You know, it might be I'm going to be a restaurant photographer who services the north of the country. But I think it's important to be very clear with you that the difference between a generalization of work and a specialist is just so key if you want to achieve that high level commercial success.